So I'm going to be explaining now the details of this event that took place. Hopefully it's understood. Whoever the psychologists are, whoever the professionals are going to make whatever they want of this. It is a long time ago. This is the horrors of what a child had to go through and how Ken and Sarah knew about this from the very beginning when I met Michael Jackson and kept quiet and did not tell my mother and father. I cannot explain to you enough that every single person is feeling sorry for Kenneth, who works at the radio station, because his parents did this. Kenneth played along with this with mutilating my dad's sister. It looked like I saw him over at the AVN. I don't know if it was him or not, including the guy that I saw what looked like it looked a little bit like him, but this guy had a full set of hair, and his hairline was a little bit different, but it looked a lot like him. And the guy that Michaela, what it looked like to be Michaela in a porno video with a guy that has done something like 200 or 300 videos, or probably at least over 100 videos, a porn star, pretty well known. But as far as I have anything to say with this, I just, wanted to make sure that it's very clear. I am not making this up. They are so rigorously coming at me and covering this up, rearranging the story, claiming that, oh, it was because of this, no, it was because of that. No. Sarah and Ken, there is absolutely no mistake. They knew what was going on. They mutilated this and did this directly toward my father, and Ken Cooper did, and used the police force later down the years against and the lack of intelligence on my mother to persecute her, unknowingly of what the events. If had I known this had happened, I would have never in my life contacted or communicated with him or allowed Kenneth to communicate with my brother Julian. But I think it's important so that I explain the best that I can, because my mother now has dementia, and Ken and Sarah got the last laugh on my mother's death. And before they died, they committed suicide, knowing that their people are cheering them on. So I think it's important for me to say this. The horrors and rapes I've already explained on most of the drawings, or all the drawings. And if there's any more other drawings I need to make, I'm going to have to be either told or someone bring up in reference. But this is what I was, and I stopped this individual. Now I want to make sure this, because my father did not know, and may have sort of panicked in a fearful way that, well, I can't do anything, but we're going to get you away from here. And the reason is because it was two guys, and I don't know what this guy, but I know very dearly in my heart, these people had been sent to spy on my father at the bar. And this guy looked exactly like him, because I knew exactly how my dad behaved and who he associated with and what kind of people showed up at that bar. That's how close I was to my father. So I wanted to make sure that I explain this, because I'm very frightened to the idea that Frankie, he literally wanted to take what he was so brainwashed and so many rapes that there's just no way that he could make a healthy decision. And this is why Ken took him to the backyard balcony on a rocking chair and was trying to joke with him, and then made him cry at the warehouse. What he's doing directly to my mother is they're doing this to make sure that their offspring and their kids, especially Kenneth, since he's working with the blacks and 50 Cent, is they get the profitable gain. They get chairs, they have a good life, but I'm being scolded throughout my life. This is unbelievable that I'm in the public eye, that I have to do this because I have no choice. President Barack Obama is directly involved. He's responsible. He's responsible for giving them whatever they want. I was the one that was thrown to the garbage can, spit on, beaten, treated like trash, and disrespected in every mutilating way, as Ken Cooper's all supporters and lookalike, and Sarah Cooper's, along with Kenneth, with the black community, came after me. So I couldn't. I have masterminded. I know this sounds crazy what these people are doing. Right now, they're tickling my mouth. They just shot an electronic device because they don't want me telling you this. But this is the story about what happened, and I want you to please understand that how bad this really is. There's no way, knowing Frankie, I know that if he didn't have a stroke and there's something wrong with him, without a doubt. Right now, my mouth is tingling. You just shot something in my mouth. They do not want me to be telling you this. President Barack Obama has given the strict orders to make sure that Ken Cooper and Sarah Cooper are not scolded for the horrors of what they did and excused and manipulated. You can see how they're making me burp now. To cover up what they did to my mother and father. My father's now deceased. And Sarah Cooper was laughing at the funeral. This is how bad it really is. Now, Kenneth played along with mutilating the subjects of my sister in front of me and covered up for his father and mother. Now, they're trying to manipulate and make me think other things, and they won't let me use the video to pull out my camera all the time and make these videos and explain to you, because they're trying to cover it up and rearrange the story. I know the story. I know exactly what happened. I was there, and they're covering up and they're lying to you. Those two people, what they did to my mother is unimaginable, of the damage that they did directly to my mother, because it was directly to my mother, and it falls down toward us as children. What Frankie went through, I can never explain how tormenting that must have been, to be a kid and it be permitted and cherished among Ken and Sarah Cooper and his platoon of people. Now, I'm not trying to be racist, but this is exactly about race. Every single person that is blonde hair or white, of that accustomed cowboy features or that white culture sort of thing, is in the praise of Ken Cooper. They don't care about who was a bad person or who was a good person. They just know that they like that person and they fight in honor of him. So you can make of whatever it is you want, but this person was putting away criminals and people in jail, and I got 25 tickets. I got right out of cancer. I could never explain the damages of what they personally did to my mother as well, because you got to understand, they're doing this directly to my mother. And I don't know if it's her identical twin, but they're poisoning her identical twin to smash my mother even more, to use her as a trash can to cover up the situation. Now, I just can't believe that this has happened. So, like I said, I'm going to go smoke a cigarette. They shot my mouth. I can feel this tingling or numbness. And it's because they don't want me to tell you this. But you can sort of hopefully make out some of the details about what had happened in here. And let me tell you, when my father, when I told him, when I got him, he almost kind of knew, but he was drunk. He wasn't drunk, but he was, my father he had a different kind of drunk attitude when he got really drunk or started drinking. Not like normal people. They started getting real violent and all this other stuff and loud. But we were in the car, and I remember how my father was just like he was worried, like, who are these fucking people fucking my son? Like, almost like it wasn't that he didn't care. It was just like he almost was trying to have a belief or faith that it didn't happen. Because he had gotten into straight fights with these other people, bringing a shotgun, and it was just like, well, I can't call the police, because then the police and these people are going to come after us. And this is how Ken Cooper used his police force to suppress my father. He does not know my father. And he bitched him around just like he was talking shit about my biological father. Now, my biological father's still alive. I'd love to be able to tell him stories about my father and what those experiences were in person, but to my understanding, I was told that he died a long time ago in a car wreck. But I wanted to make sure that I explain this, because that way, in these circumstances that are all going on, is that it finally gets put to the past, because I cannot do anything about this. This is Barack Obama's glory in using my brother's anal cavity as a wash rag, and using his army veterans and his white supremacists and the political powers of what this is happening to make it a profitable game. I was the one that was thrown to the streets. My brother, that was all my immediate family. And because I'm the only straight kid, it's strictly because of this. It is strictly all bound. I'm helping someone that's gay. I end up getting raped with him a couple of times, or experienced this. He's taken the blow to this, and I'm protecting him. And I don't have anything against, like, if somebody wants to have sex with men, then, and they're gay, then I understand that they're gay. I understand that that's who they are, that's what they do. That's what they call it, safe sex, and adults understand toward one another of what they're getting into. It's the fact that there were adult homosexuals that were raping my brother, and they were doing it in front of me, and in so many circumstances. And I know 50 Cent is getting involved, other people are getting involved. This is about helping Keno from 97.9 The Beat and the hip hop station, and how he's real cool and just all angel. This is pure poison of what these people are doing. They're firing back and forth to rearrange. They're pure poison to my mother. President Barack Obama is responsible for this. He's the one that gave him the token. But it is a good thing to move on forward, as horrible as it is. I'm not the professional. He's the one that gave him those ribbons and trophies and awards to make sure that Sarah and Ken get those awards for their kids. And he is going to lie and punish the situation to make sure this favors into George Bush, President Barack Obama, and that goddamn White House. It is a racist world that we live in, because they did this to my mother. As much as they crushed the hell out of me, I also did this to my mother, because I was a kid and I didn't understand things very well, because I was just a kid. So my mother has a first grade education. I talked about this. Hopefully this brings clarity. We can move on from it, because everything that is going on right now, when every place that I go to, all they're doing is bringing up Ken Cooper supporters and making him look like heroes, and brainwashing and washing away everything like it never happened, so that he stays in his safety net. He dies as a hero. He dies with dignity. And my mother gets shamed, and they just shove money down my mother's throat. It's so masterminded by President Barack Obama for the black community, for the black niggas. That's why they're doing it, because the war is so much between the two that there's so many different departments of the war. The gays, how the women are not allowed to get involved, the heterosexual women, and how it's the racist thing with the blacks and the whites bickering toward one another over Michael Jackson, and how they're going to help Kenneth, and how they're going to help Ken Cooper, the cowboy hero of the sheriff's department, and everything that's going on. But the fact is, in the position that I'm in, it was best to have killed me and my family to help their leaders. So hopefully this makes sense to you. Hopefully this is described so that we can move on from this. Because I know I'm so frightened right now, and all the time of my brother, there's no possible way that he is going to be clear at all. And that leaves me with the power of attorney above Julian, because now Frankie can't, and everything that was going on in our family with $125,000 in equity in houses and $50,000 in surcharges, but all these memories I have to now show evidence, because Sarah and Ken and Kathy and these other people, how they contaminated, and that became so, they damaged so many things intentionally because they knew they could get away with it. Had somebody asked me when I was 20 years old, I would have drawn these, I would have explained, but they wanted to sabotage the situation, and Kenneth played along with this. So I don't think anybody really gives a shit anymore, other than just more Michael Jackson and more publicity. It's not going to change for the black niggas for Keynote, for Kenneth. It doesn't change anything what has happened. I'm 40 years old. I lost my life. It's being reinvented by someone else, and they're persecuting me with a religious church organization to get away with it even more. Get away with murder, get away with rape, get away with anything they want, and then rearrange it to what they want. and they use it by force and fearful tactics. I can't do anything about this. What they're doing. President Barack Obama had ordered it, and like I said, he's the president. It doesn't change anything. If I was sleeping next to the trash cans, being attacked by dogs, cats, and rats and roaches, if I was, that's the life I lived. I had no choice. You understand that everything that I had to do, they won't let me have an apartment. They were kicking me out of the house. They didn't tell me anything. All they did was scold me, kick me, and punch me, and threaten me about my mother, about my brother's rapes. That's all they ever did. What do you think they ever did to Sarah and Ken and Kenneth? But at least if you get scolded, you didn't sleep next to a trash can like I did. At least you didn't have dogs shit right next to your head. At least you didn't have dogs come by me and piss at you. At least you didn't have people throw fucking Jack in the Box tacos in your fucking face where you only had $20 for years, months. I'd finally live at a hotel. I moved somewhere, I had to sleep on the streets. It's 40 freezing temperatures. Doesn't change. That was the scum life that I lived because I was forced to. I didn't have any money and nobody would help me. And nobody had to help me because the disability office didn't want to help me. I'm 35 years old, I'm 40 years old now. This is for, they gave the orders. They're running the political power, and they did this. They have enough power to have changed the circumstances of my life and punish them and punish others, but they didn't. They punished me, and he sent the people to come after me to punish the situation. But I'm doing this because I believe in a higher universe, in the galaxies, and the infinite of solar systems that are out there, that God is listening or has some sort of input to say that George Bush and President Barack Obama and Ken Cooper and Sarah Cooper will be punished in the afterlife, or something of this outcome will happen, or I did something good by at least addressing this in the efforts, because I risked my life, I risked my sexual parts, I witnessed my brother and explained to why it happened. And I think it's important. So hopefully you stay tuned in and see what's going on. So I'd like to be able to, move on from this and make the best of it. Because I'm so terrified. There's no way that my brother Frankie can make a decision. I know for a fact. I know my brother Frankie very well. You don't understand the times that I'm going into his room and, explaining to him, what's going on with these situations, what's going on. His actions and how he's doing things was entirely ripped from him in clarity decisions because of what was happening. People found out about Michael Jackson, and that's how his family and him took advantage of the situation. And they got their glories because we paid for it in my immediate family. But this was about Kenneth and how he got with the black niggas for Michael Jackson at their radio station, and he's hip-hop. So my mother has dementia, will never be able to explain. The psychologists are responsible for this so much, for never contacting me. The psychologists are responsible for saying, let me draw these pictures. I was more than willing to explain the drawings and whatever it is, and then you do what you want with it. But I know that I was a witness. You get the truth. You can verify my truth, and then you make of it, because it is the past. There is nothing that I can do about this. But I don't like the fact that my brother was being raped, because he is my brother. I don't hate him because he's gay. The fact that there were gay men raping him. Okay? So, it affected him in his relationship toward my mother, toward my father, and his existence in life. And Ken Cooper laughed at that. And now that he's old, and now that Sarah Cooper's old, and now that Kenneth is getting old, they're all milking the situation in the public eye. And they're saying, oh, finding little dandy people. Because they're the ones that were punching me over at the ski resort on my kneecap, where my mother got ran over by a forklift for Ken Cooper. President Barack Obama is ordering the threats and the assaults upon my life. He's the one that's sending these people and saying, "Oh, do whatever, haha," hey, that's exactly what he's doing until he gets his last laugh with Michelle. So I'm not the professional. It is a dying cause because I am 40 years old. I got a lot of gray hair now. So hopefully it goes into the right hands, this information. I know that my dad was being spied because I remember peeping around the corner, and I was looking at this guy, and he was engaging in a way that he looked very suspicious, very like he was spying on my dad, and it was because Ken Cooper looks like this guy, and that's a very similar thing. They always tend to get the lookalikes of the racial superiors that want to support that race. So they get blonde hair, blue eyes, white American cowboy, and so they'll get these guys that go in question. And my dad has no fucking idea, and so there's no way to prove that for sure. But as far as it goes with this, and I feel very dear to that. But as far as this goes, you'll be able to show this evidence to Frankie to whatever clarity he has left of him. And this is what happened. And this was so horrific. This is someone's raping my brother. This guy had, I don't know, this had to have happened more than once because I know my brother Frankie had gone to the bar. He only went to the bar probably like as an adult, I would say no more than 5 to 7, anywhere between 4 to 7 times in his life did he ever go to the bar alone with my father. And it wasn't Veterans Night every single night at the bar. It was like 2 days out of the week, 2 or 3 days out of the week, there was like a veterans discount day. So this bar that he went to, Frankie only went to this bar maybe anywhere from 4 to 7 times in his entire life by himself. Maybe not even that. So I know and I feel like I remember him coming home and something had happened. So this guy may have worked or knew that Frankie was showing up here, but I remember that I was such a tag along with my brother Frankie and with my dad that I always monitored both of them to what everything that they were doing. Every time they left, or when they went to Tatos or the Abrahams, or they went to the bar. I mean, I was on key to everything that was going on all the time. So there was an event, I know that maybe this guy did it the very day, but I don't think that this was the first time. I think Frankie went to this bar alone and that it happened there, and then he went back to that bar, and then he remembered this sexual behavior that he was being stimulated with, and forced to be put on. So that's why, because it happened so fast, and the way that it literally was like he just pulled his pants down and is like, go ahead and rape me, and I want to have sex with you. That's exactly like how it was. That's how crazy it was. Within a matter of like 15 minutes or 10 minutes, like me walking into the pool room, me walking into an area like this, he's literally like goes into a room, pulls his pants, and he's getting anally raped, and like I don't even know. And I remember he quickly, like shooed me away because he didn't want me to catch what was going on. And this is how crazy it is. So I think it's important, because my mother would be crying right now. I know Frankie needed someone dearly to protect him, and I did the best that I could. And Ken Cooper and Sarah Cooper made sure that they hogwash that for themselves before they die, before my mother dies, before I die or develop tragedies. They want to make sure that they feed this to Michelle. They want to make sure they feed this to Madison, their precious supremacy. Especially Kenneth, because he's hip-hop. A 50 Cent keynote, he's hip-hop. It doesn't change any of the circumstances how frustrating and unfair it was. I got persecuted because of this. If it didn't happen to Frankie then, no, now it happened to me. I'm just nervous the fact that a kid would would behave this way. Like if you saw a kid that was willing to behave this way, you would be frightened. I mean, Frankie was like 4 years older than me. Frankie's about 4 years older than me. 4.5, that's it, about four. Because I was born in January, he's born in December. And yeah, he's 4 years older than me. So I was somewhere around 9 years old. So Frankie at this time was about 13 years old when this happened. Maybe early 14, but because I remember it being outside and it was warm outside. We were still wearing shorts, so I want to say it was before he was 14. He could have even been 12, but I would average it out to anywhere from about, I'd say, late 12 to 13 years old, because it was still summertime. And it was toward maybe like after the biggest heat of the summer. It was like maybe August, I would say. I'm sorry, maybe September, I would say. But when this happened, he ended up this. It's so frightening to know that he would behave this way, and this sexual predator was doing this, and he was doing this because they were raping him. This happened at Lichas. The way that he behaved was so psychotic, and the way that I knew this behavior was happening when we were with my grandpa. I don't like the fact that my brother has a loose asshole all ripped up, so that Ken and Sarah Cooper got the last laugh at it for Keynote and Michelle, and all the publicity that's going on, Dana White and UFC fighters, or Dana White and all. I'm not saying, it's strictly bound for the supremacy in these homosexuals. But, but like I said, when you got these homosexuals, they're always going to fight for this. They don't care. They don't want to throw them in prison. This behavior was so crazy that he was being beaten to only understand that he's only a sex toy. He's only a sex toy. And they continue to do it. They're slamming something over there in the kitchen right now. They want me to keep quiet, but I'm going to explain this a little bit further. And, the only time that I would have expressed that Frankie told me was I already talked about when he went to Datos, where he was actually thanking me. And he was telling me, "Thank you, Hector, for saving my life." Because he was scared. I don't know if the guy was very aggressive when he was raping him, like physically, like rough sex, or he was threatening like him such in a scary way that he didn't like it then. But I think it's important because this is Barack Obama's and George Bush's laughter. They knew where the trash can is. They knew where the cemetery is. They knew how to scold my life. They knew how to change the story. They know how to rearrange it. They're using the best psychologists. But he was my brother. He wasn't Kenneth's profitable game, just like you saw him look like him over at AVN. No, he played with this and used Julian. They're masterminding this. That pig-infested piece of shit shouldn't have been involved. But guess what? Michael Jackson's going to clean up for hip-hop. Because, you know who's getting involved. I want to move on from this. It happened. I explained it. Anything else, more new information, I will. Any more details on it, I will. But I don't want to keep going over this because they're doing it already at all the sites that I'm going to. And they're trying to use the crucifix and to use the religious beliefs to get away with what they did. You make the best of it. He was my brother. And, going to this AVN also helps because there are loads of homosexuals that were and transgenders that were there. They were all porn stars, and they could be targeting Julian, and they're going to be targeting Marco and his twins, and they're going to be making sure to see which ones they want and see what they want to take, and then find unity there. So that's a very different world for that. I understand, but they're going to know how to pick it off to favor it because it'll turn against my mother for Kenneth and Sarah, the Secrets, and Kenneth. So at the radio station. So it doesn't change the fact of how I live my life and how I was treated. But I want to move on from this because it helps me move on from it. There's nothing more that I can do about it. But I'm doing this for the love of my brother and what I tried to give him in life, and any efforts as a brother would have to give him something that people shouldn't do that to you. You're a person. You should have more decisions. You should be more self in a healthier way. And that was a bad thing that happened to you and what they trained you to do for Ken and Sarah Cooper and the president to make the laughs out of it. But I don't care if my brother was gay because it still makes me mad. I just didn't like the fact that somebody was doing that. It's fine if my other brothers are gay. I don't hate them for it. I understand that. But the fact that somebody's raping you, you should keep your private parts to who you really want to choose when you're in a clear decision to who you want to give them to. And I proved this. This was a total of a 9 to 10. Confirmed. Two in which events I had my grandpa's house in Mexico, which I had to participate in. That was it. And those events lasted just maybe 10 minutes, if that. But as far as anything I have to say with this, I stopped all these people, including my mother being held in a hostage situation, risking my life, risking my anal cavity, risking everything that was going on. I got nothing for it. President Barack Obama and George Bush and the new presidents are doing what they want. But I think that there's a bigger God. I'd like to think that there is, but it doesn't matter because it's how I lived my life and how the people treated me, that I had nothing, no action to do onto them. So, I believe that my brother's body, even if he is gay, is still sacred. But there was nothing that I could do about that. They raped me with a transgender. They used my mother's sisters. I couldn't explain my mother's sister's friends doing it, or my mother's sister's friend, doing this. Kathy and all these other people that stole all the money from my mother's house and rewired everything. But I think it's important because I'm not the professional, the psychologists are.